.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city and home of the Juan Castillo Morning Show. Good morning, New Haven. This is Moving Target. I'm your host, Jay Kemp, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Remedy Sharif. What's good, bro?
Peace and blessings, life and lessons.
Let me get your mic on.
All
right, there you go.
Peace and blessings, life and lessons.
Yeah, you still sound a little different.
Sound a little different, man. I'm not hearing it. There
you
go. Hello. Now we in it. Super Saturday. Let's go.
Yeah. So good to have you here, brother. We got a lot of people in the building, so we're gonna get to them in a moment once we begin our discussion. And we got a great show for you. But first, just a couple of quick announcements. For those of you who are watching via YouTube, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. And if you are listening to us on the radio right now or on Facebook, please go to our YouTube page, Moving Target Media, and subscribe. Y'all don't know how much that really means to us for that support. And also, another announcement. This is really important. So if you need to put this in your notes, in your phone, or write this down, this is for your child, your nephew, your niece, any high school student that you know. All right, I have a great opportunity for them to be part of a paid apprenticeship and on-job training. All right, legendary painter and New Haven native Titus Kafar created Next Haven, NXTHVN, a new art space housed in the former manufacturing plant right across from the Hill House High School. This place is amazing. I've been here from the beginning. I'm the apprentice coordinator over there, so any students that apply, I'll be working with them. They're gonna have a black box theater, cafe, a co-working space. I mean, this isn't downtown catering to Yale. You know what I'm saying? No, this is right here in our neighborhood for us. All right, never been done before. And this apprentice program for high school students is only accepting 7 students. Applications are out. The deadline to apply is October 31st. To apply, you must go to nexthhaven.com, nxthvn.com/apply. All right, so for more info, contact me at jay@nexthaven.com. All right, and you don't want to miss out on this opportunity.
Gotta take advantage of that.
Got to. All right, so for the last 3 weeks, I've been covering top stories of white privilege. Not on purpose, just because if you research enough, you'll see white privilege somewhere. All right. The first week, I covered Felicity Huffman, who scammed her way into getting her daughter into college, and she only got like a few months and a fine that she could easily pay. And then the next week, we had Rabbi Daniel Greer, whose sexual assault case was dropped at the last minute. And now this week, we have another story of white privilege news.
And Rabbi Greer, whoa. Bring them in, man.
That's right.
Bring them in shackles, barefooted.
So in this week's white privilege news, everyone is talking about Amber Guyger, the former police officer who walked into what she thought was her own apartment and killed Botham Jean, an unarmed black man who posed no threat at all. Amber Guyger received 10 years for this murder, 10 years, while Kalantre Barfield received 45 years for killing a police dog. And Marissa Alexander received 20-year sentence for warning shots towards her, I think it was abusive husband.
Yeah, down in Florida.
Yeah.
Busting a warning shot.
Amber only received 10 years. Now, it wasn't just the 10 years that had everyone up in arms, at least not just for me, because I don't think anyone was shocked about that. But she also got a massage on her head. She got her hair brushed by the police officer in the court. You know, the victim's brother said, "I don't want to see you in jail," then asked the judge to go hug her. But the craziest was Tammy Kemp. No relationship, by the way. No relation. I hope not. Better not be. She got up from her seat,
The judge.
to quote scripture and console her. All right,
This has to be a first.
It has to be. It has to be. So, and listen, I understand everybody has their way of doing things, but why does it seem like we are so forgiving? Rakeem, I think his name Rakeem Jones, forgave James Franklin McGraw in 2016 after he was punched in the face for no reason at a Trump rally. That's right. All right. The family of Dylan, the family at the church when Dylan Roof shot up the church,
right,
forgave him.
That's right.
And there's more examples of us forgiving. So, granted, everybody has their way of processing things. I get that, but why collectively does it seem like we always forgive so easy, right? So, to join us in this conversation, we have Quinnipiac University professor Khalfani Touré. What's up, bro?
Hey, what's up, family?
Thank you so much for coming back, man. I really appreciate it.
No, I love being here, and I wanted to say to the Moving Target community and to my brother Remedy as well as you, you guys keep radio honest, so I totally appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. Really appreciate that. And we also have a surprise guest, Gage. What's up, bro?
How you doing? Good morning, everybody.
I know you're coming on a future show. We're going to be talking about politics and stuff like that.
If you want to have me.
Absolutely, of course. And then we got another political activist, Jay Wan. What's up, bro?
Good morning, everyone.
All right. So we're going to also open up the phone lines in a little while. But before we do that, I want to start with you, Khalfani. What's your perspective on this? What was your whole mindset when you saw this happen?
And keep it raw.
No. Well, I can only do that. But let me just start off by evoking Brother James Baldwin when he says that, I love America more than any other country. In fact, to paraphrase him, this is the only country as I know, and so therefore I insist on the right to criticize America perpetually. Particularly as a black man, I'm going to criticize it with regards to race and other sort of systemic issues. In terms of Tammy Kemp, her embrace at the end of the trial was very much inappropriate. See, on the one hand, it's okay for a citizen to embrace a defendant and or give a Bible to this defendant. In fact, she told the defendant, Amber Geiger, to sort of begin her sort of reformation by reading John 3:16, right? God so loved the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this was inappropriate because there is a such thing as the separation between church and state.
Yeah.
And so in her robe, in her official capacity, she in fact sort of asked to reform or share her religion in whatever with this particular person. So that was certainly inappropriate. But there's something more fundamental happening here. You see, there's a selective, if you will, forgiveness process. Black folk tend not to forgive other black folk for types of crimes like these.
Yeah, I don't think, if she was black, I don't think she'd be forgiven.
Oh, and absolutely. And white folk, and I don't mean this in any harsh way, but my brother Remedy said, please keep it raw and real. White folk don't often forgive black folk for types of crimes like this. And so what is this about this sort of selective sort of application of forgiveness? Now, some people might argue that if you sort of harbor anger and sort of frustration, that it worsens our cardiovascular conditions, and so therefore we must forgive sort of white supremacists and white racists. Well, I tell you, if you want to forgive, you want to improve your health conditions, then let's start changing the food deserts that we live in with all the carryout spots that characterize our main corridors, the main arteries in our community. Let's start thinking about the zoning board if you want to get good health.
Right.
Let's look at more recreational space in Black and Latinx communities. So I want to put that aside here and make this point. Some might say that it's about religion. It's about, in fact, you think of scriptures such as the book of Mark, sort of the book of Matthews, in fact, when in the book of Matthews, it says that, for if you forgive other people who sin against you, then your Father in heaven shall forgive you. Or sort of the book of Ephesians in chapter 4:32, when it says, be kind and compassionate to one another because God ultimately will forgive you. Black folk got to realize that there should be a separation between sort of forgiveness and absolving someone of their wrongdoing.
Yeah, especially because if you don't feel, it's one thing to verbally say, I forgive you, but if you don't feel that person actually deserves to be absolved, then who is it really serving?
Absolutely. Jesus the Nazareth was killed by the Romans. And in fact, some would argue, some of us who are deep in this says that Jesus looked more like you and I. And that he was killed not on a cross, but he was lynched on a tree. right, metaphorically. And so when we think about this, Jesus didn't say in the end of his life, I forgive the Romans. In fact, he spoke very little bit about the Romans. That was for someone else to do, to sort of lend forgiveness. Jesus was upset. In fact, Jesus was in pain. Jesus was dying. And so, when we sort of practice this formulaic response of forgiveness, we indemnify white folk. In other words, we make white folk feel good and feel as though that they don't own the responsibility of systemic and white supremacy. So we let them off the hook.
What do you think it is? I mean, there's an argument that on one hand, it's the weaponization of Christianity. This is deeply rooted since slavery. On the other hand, there's also the idea that, well, this is another example of seeking white validation. You know what I mean? And this is for everybody if you want to chime in. But what do y'all think? What do you think this really is? Where do you think is the root of this?
We've been beaten to submission. We've been mentally and physically whipped into submission, man. And especially coming from mentally, because we've been served this image of a white God that automatically puts you in a place of inferiority. Right. So seeing that, and when we're dealing with the Caucasian people, you automatically feeling inferior, and then you end up, the injustices are being done to you, but you feel bad for the people that are doing the injustice to you. It's submission.
Yeah. Absolutely. We absolve people, particularly forms of white terrorism against our community. We absolve the act, but it's something deeper than just the act. See, I think, therefore I am. First, sin is, as the Bible says, if you want to get holy roly on me, the Bible says that sin is first committed in thought. So you can forgive the act, but we need to change the mindset of America. See, white supremacy is an ideology. So you can forgive Amber Geiger less than a second, and I'm a former police officer, as you all know, and we're taught cover and concealment. She opened the door, she assumed it was her apartment after working a 15-hour shift. She started 7 a.m. in the morning, got off at 10 p.m. And she was sexting, right? She was texting a married man about sex relations, right? So she wasn't so mentally fatigued as one would argue.
Right.
But she could have...
If anything, her endorphins were on point there.
They were on fleek, as they would say, right? And so she could have simply backed out of the apartment and called for backup, right? But she describes in her affidavit that she saw this dark figure, this silhouette of a man.
That's all she needed to see, dark.
Right? And so she... And the insulting thing about this is that the end of her trial, after she plays Goldilocks on the stage, or on the stand rather. I should say on the stage, because it was a hell of a performance.
Oh yeah, it was.
At the end of her trial, she claimed stand your ground, the Castle Doctrine, which argues that in fact she has no right to retreat when she is within her own sort of God-given and sort of her home or her vehicle, etc., when she was in fact in his home. So her and her attorneys had already sort of drew out this sort of racial narrative. They wanted people to see the vulnerable white female with the dark silhouette, beyond imaginable size of a black man, who was sitting at his table with a spork, eating ice cream.
That's crazy.
12 to 15 feet away. And so what happens is that white supremacy, and we have to continue to engage this, white supremacy socializes us, it conditions us to almost instinctually forgive. Yeah. And again, this forgiveness is selective. We only forgive white racists.
Do you think this is some people argue that, well, forgiveness is the best thing to do because when you do it, it helps everyone. And where are we going to be if we don't forgive? We're going to be bitter and angry and stuff like that. Do you think, what do you say to that argument?
Well, let me just say to you, and I totally appreciate the question. I get that question quite often. Forgiveness without mutual atonement. In fact, black folk don't necessarily have, the victim doesn't have anything to atone for. But forgiveness without atonement is just cheap grace. It's cheap grace. She doesn't atone for what she's done. Now, by the way, we thought that this was an accident. This was just an error, bad decisions on this officer's part. She was fatigued, etc. But then later we discovered that she has these very racist sort of social media accounts and content that both she initiated and that she responded to. So it tells us that there is some racial animus. So now you ask me, Jay, you ask me, Remedy, do I have a problem with this? Absolutely I have a problem with this. When the brother, Brant, gets on the stand during his sort of victim impact witness statement, etc., and he says, you know, I love you for a person. This is white supremacy at its most sickest stage. When you are told that this person is a rabid racist.
And you see the messages.
And you see the messages. Yeah. Now, it's not just the brother. It's, you know, the father. The father said, Bertram said that he wanted to be friends with her. The mother said that we were raised as Christians, and we didn't hear anything from the sister. In fact, the mother's name is Allison, and we didn't hear anything from the sister or the daughter, whose name is Alyssa. But you know what? I'm a Garner. I love Ewa Garner, Eric Garner's wife, who said, "No, I'm not forgiving you.
That's right.
I'm hurting, and now you deprived me of my breadwinner. How should I forgive? You should forgive your damn self."
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I just think that you know, there's a significant sickness, and people just jump to it and praise because how graceful Brent was in his forgiveness. You know, I'm not saying that you know we can't personally grieve. I don't want to dictate how this family, you know, grieves. But also, when it deals with this type of magnitude of race, then we should also be held accountable for what significance this means for the greater cause.
We're speaking with Khalfani Touré, and of course we have a few people in the space right now having this discussion. Feel free to call us up and join us, 203-562-9430, 203-562-9430. Something else that seems like when it comes to black people in regards to this situation, whether it's Martin Luther King politically or even if it's a situation like this, we're supposed to demonstrate this nobility. We're supposed to be the ones that like show this feeling of of meekness almost. You know what I mean? Where's that coming from? Where does that is I mean, I don't want to say Martin Luther King began that, but for me, the furthest I can go back to, as far as in the books, the history books, is when you have Martin Luther King saying, they could throw rocks, they could throw whatever, do not, we're nonviolent.
Absolutely. Well, let me just say that I want to be careful here because I don't want to generalize. We have a lot of important allies who, in fact, would be designated as white. So it's not all white people. What I'm talking about is the ideology, white supremacy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so what I want to say is not just about forgiveness. What you're pointing to is about a dance. You see, in the encounters with white supremacist people, whether they're actively supremacists or they don't know that they're supremacists, we are supposed to disabuse them of the idea that the ghetto stereotype applies to us. Mm-hmm. So we have to do what's called the dance. Mm-hmm. And sometimes time is not on your side. If the consequences of their stereotypical applications on you as a threat or as something other than conventional, or they have some kind of dystopian gaze in which they see you, and the consequences is such that they have to take necessary action to incapacitate you, shoot you, incarcerate you, apprehend you, and you don't have enough time to dance, to disabuse them of this idea, this notion that you in fact are ghetto and or a threat, then the consequences is just what we saw. I mean, it was within a fraction of seconds between her getting into the apartment, how she got in, I'm not sure, and seeing this black man and shooting him. And so sometimes, Jay, we don't have the luxury of time. Now, if I could sit with my counterparts who are white, for days, I can demonstrate to them that, in fact, I'm not, a threat, that I am a friend, that I have good intentions. But that's enough time for me to dance.
Right, yeah. And that's the thing. It's this dance that I feel like it's going to keep us in a circle, and we're not going to have no headway. At some point, somebody got to say, no, we're not forgiving. And it's unfortunate because then there'll be a race war.
I mean, I forget the sister name and pardon because I could bring it up on another day. But one sister said when the missionaries came to Africa, they came with their Bible and we had the land. And They taught us how to pray with our eyes closed. And when we opened up our eyes, we had the Bible, and now they had the land. So it is something to be said, and I encourage everybody to try to gain a better understanding of spirituality instead of so hardly focused on the religions that's been given to us. Understand spirituality, because in the religion of Christianity that they gave to us, you've been taught to submit, man. Like, bottom line, you've been just straight up taught to submit, turn the other cheek. That's why a lot of people think that, Martin Luther King, well, whatever the ideas are why he was killed, but we know before his death, he started turning to a whole nother level.
Yeah, he started to be like, I don't know.
He started connecting.
I'm not getting hit by another rock.
He started connecting with Malcolm X, Alhaj Malik Shabazz, and God be pleased and have mercy upon both of them. So it's, it's that way of thinking that.
That's right.
We're going to go to a phone call right now. Hold up. 94.3.
Peace, bro.
Peace. Pastor Lewis, what's going on, brother?
How you doing?
Doing great.
And speak up, please, good brother.
Yeah,
that's what we need you to do, is speak up right now, man. You know it's your brother, Rem. Speak up now.
With you, man.
So I'm really glad you called in. I had to text you to make sure you called in because I really want you. I think your perspective is definitely something important for this discussion as being a pastor. But asking you, who is this forgiveness? When we talk about forgiveness, who is it really serving? Even in this context, who is the forgiveness really serving?
Forgiveness, again, first of all, let me just do this disclaimer here. I don't want no one to think by the words that I say that I'm excusing any wrong deed. That's not what this is about. This is about us being able to progress and to move forward and to do what is necessary for us to really become effective for our people and to grow, man, and to be able to impact the world at large. So with that said, forgiveness is never just about the person that's being forgiven. It's for the individual that got violated. Because if you do not learn how to let go, that thing will haunt you all your life, and it will become a decision maker in a lot of things that you do. So again, it's not about just a black or a white thing, brother. It's about violation of self or anything. Your mother could have violated you. Your brother could have violated you. We violate each other. And because of those traumas in our lives, we have forgiven people. So they're becoming the guiding mechanism emotionally. Every time that familiar situation comes up, you have triggers that now become a part of your decision making for your future that you brought forth from yesterday. But so forgiveness is never just about that person, man. And what we got to stop doing, and we got to understand the masterminds that are behind a system that was created and planned out for hundreds of years, understanding that we are going to react like this and not respond. And so they know we're going to react like this. This stuff is put in place for that.
You think they knew you think they know we're going to react upset to go ahead.
They know we are, because of what they've done to us, they know we are reactionary. So with that said, no matter what they do, how they want to do it, whatever plan they have for the future, they put stuff in place that's going to direct our decisions emotionally.
I'm sorry, good brother, because what it truly seems like. Are you still there, Pastor Lewis? Pastor Lewis, and I definitely want to hear your response to that, bro. And I hope you call us back. I definitely want to hear Kafani's response to that. But what it seems like to me is that what they know is that our response is always basically nothing, is bowing down.
They'll be all right.
And and that's what they know. That's why these things, these horrific tragedies continue to happen. Because they know that we have been in every aspect, in the political realm. What do? We're willing to sit down and talk. We don't go. We burn down our own neighborhoods. I mean, I'm not ever a promoter of violence, but I love my people. I love people in general, but I love my people. Let's protect ourselves. Let's stop burning down our stuff and go burn down some of their stuff. Maybe they'll get it.
I think he's calling right back.
Sure.
And then I want you to be able to respond.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Pastor Lewis, you there?
Why y'all cut me off like that?
Well, brother, first of all, brother, because he had to text you to call. So we really should have went to the next caller.
No.
Because you wasn't calling on your own. But let's get...
So Pastor Lewis, I wanted to right before we got cut off, Calfani was going to respond to you, to what you were saying. So I want him to respond, and then, you guys can have that dialogue.
So let me just say this to Pastor Lewis, as my brother, I guess in faith, but also in humanity. Don't take this the wrong way, but forgiveness is akin to forgetfulness. This is the only country that promotes amongst African people historical amnesia. While at the same time, when you go to the national malls, they have all the patrimony, the statues, the monuments that sort of promotes their empire. But we are the only people to forget. And so to me, when we say forgive, we're saying ignore the past and let's just move on, which again is about absolving them. The second thing is, I want to point out something that he sort of begun his remarks with. He first apologized, and so we're beginning to sort of outline the way in which the formulaic response of black people are to respond to white supremacy. One, you must dance, and if dance is insufficient and the tragedy takes place, then you must learn to forgive. But you also must learn to apologize. Right, and so he first offered his commentary with an apology, a profuse apology to white people to say, hey, this is not about race. No, we must be unapologetic about calling the corruptness of the system, the systematic oppression that our people experience, without shame and without, this is the only way in which we're going to correct or rectify the system.
What do you, yeah.
Let me respond to that. I agree. I have no problem with what you just said. However, we're minimizing what we're dealing with to an experience of a black individual that we call African American, whatever color that we want to identify. Again, I don't want to get into that part of it, but we're looking at a situation and we're allowing this experience and throughout history to identify something that is innately in us. That is just there. It's not about just forgiving white people. If you heard what I said, it wasn't about me just forgiving white people. We don't even forgive ourselves, brother. We hold on to stuff that we had. And you're right, apology is necessary. It comes with that. But it shouldn't change what nature and what I know to do what is right, brother, because I don't want to carry that with me. I don't want to carry my trauma of yesterday with me. So again, we get caught up in this little game of white and black stuff. I don't want to deal with that. Right now, we need to understand forgiveness for ourselves. Right now, we need to understand how to forgive one another instead of taking it to a place where we so hateful of one another because of what we've been through. And if we understand forgiveness and apology, then we would not be so angry at each other and cancel each other's lives. It's deeper than all of that.
In all due respect, I wonder if we could practice forgiveness within the family. And I think we should, I agree with you. I think we should be practicing forgiveness as an ongoing process. But I wonder if we can sort of prioritize the fact that we are oppressed and that we are under assault, right? And that our gaze should also be looking at the source of our oppression, not just focusing on what we need to do amongst each other.
I agree. Look, everything you're saying, I agree. And if I don't agree, I want to find out how I can. Because it's not about us being stuck at a place where, once again, we're dialoguing back and forth, and then it seems like to others that me and you have a disagreement. No, I need to understand and agree with you and find out how we can really strategize and move forward. Now, again, there's so many different parts to moving forward. Some of us need to be in the strategy room, and some of us need to be on the level that we're conversating. I'm not saying that our level's not relevant and that's not important, that it's low, but again, everything needs to be moving at this point.
So Pastor Lewis, I just want to ask you a question. Why do you think collectively, though, why do you think black people are so forgiving on the main stage? Granted, excuse me, I know that people will have their ways of grieving. So if the young brother wanted to go up and hug her, if that's his process, I don't agree with it, but okay. But collectively, why do you think on the main stage that's what we see? We see black people forgiving white people.
Well, I haven't. Let me just say this again. When you have been taught, when you have been taken away from, to me again, what is naturally innate in us, and you've been trained to, you've been taught to hate and dislike each other, that doesn't take away the nature of what you are, brother. It just strains you not to forgive one another who look like you. But once again, you are now still practicing what to me is naturally something that's in you. Now the opportunity comes, again, the individuals choose to do that. I have not seen that on a large scale.
Wait. Hold up. Just so you didn't see the family at the church where Dylan Roof shot up the family?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I said what I said. I have not seen it on a large scale of a lot of that happening. Let me just retract, not retract, but let me just make this point. Please let us not be manipulated by social media either, because now we have more of this stuff probably been going on longer, but let us not get stuck on a few events. Let us stay focused on still what we need to do. Again, forgiveness is not it's nothing, it's not wrong.
So do you?
It's not wrong to forgive.
Do you feel? Do you? So you're saying that it is innately in us to forgive, and that we, us doing that, we're only doing what is in our nature. You don't think this is a conditioning?
Yeah, nothing is natural. Everything, we're socially constructed human beings, and so we're socialized to respond in particular ways, right? And everything is involved in that process. The environments that we're in, our first teachers, meaning our parents, K through 12 teachers, just anybody who can influence us. So there's nothing innate or inherent about forgiveness or anger or frustration. It's about the environment and the social constructedness of these dispositions.
Hold on one second, Pastor. I just wanted one of our guests to be able to talk. J1?
One of the pieces I want to add in is the social impact that this does play out in our community, because you have younger generations who are observing that they feel different. One of the key aspects is that when a person in my age group, and I'm 31 by the way, we don't feel necessarily that type of forgiveness should automatically be accepted in our community, and that when we do have a different an opinion, we also should not be attacked for that opinion, because we're the ones who also deal with what we deal with on a daily basis. And those indifferences, it plays out differently, because now when you're dealing with, let's say, the other communities, they might automatically expect to have us to forgive them when they do transgression against us, whether it's a corner store owner or someone who's behind the teller. They look at it as, okay, when we do wrong, you should automatically forgive us as well. So it has a different consequence that it plays out, not just on TV, but across the country.
Pastor Lewis, did you you had a response, and then?
Again, when we forgiveness, once again, let's go back to what I said. It's about the person. It's about me. It's about me not holding on to stuff so I can move on. Number one, we are relegating this expression to events, environmental stuff, and the brother said that it's not a part of our nature. I disagree with that, because again, it's an emotion, it's an expression. It is something that helps you continue on to develop in interacting with other people. You don't live on this earth by yourself. So we're going. Wait a minute, brother.
Yep.
We're going to be disappointed. We're going to have people upset us. We're going to have family members that make us mad. So you have to exercise that in order for you to still relate.
So I want to just leave you with it. I want to ask you this last question, and then we're gonna and I know you're busy. But how much of an impact do you feel the indoctrination of Christianity has on what we see now as what it seems to be as black people being very forgiving for a lot of white supremacist acts?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I believe that there are some aspects of Christianity that have definitely been manipulated, and some things that have been put in place to not give us the whole truth about it, which I don't want to get in depth with it, but that would take your show, another show, and some other shows. So there has been some manipulation utilizing some of the natural things, as I said, that know that's just there, brother. People that study people, man. Come on, man. They study people. And so they know how to put stuff in place. They know how to create systems, and religious systems, and whatever educational systems that don't speak to the moment, but that lay out your future. They know that they're leading you in that path. So again, my answer is there's been stuff put in place to manipulate those natural expressions and emotions and put it in there that probably added to way more and imagery and who we feel the color of God or Jesus was and all of that, brother.
Right.
All place. Yeah.
Pastor Lewis, thank you so much for joining us, man. We'll catch up.
And next time don't make us have to text you to call. Moving target.
Okay, brother.
All right, peace.
Peace.
So yeah, I mean that's interesting. You know, I feel like he was a little dancing around it a little bit. You know, I wanted to make sure I spoke with a pastor who could really speak more from a faith perspective. And I don't expect the pastor to say, no, don't forgive. I expect even the imam, you know, I expect them to say, no, we should forgive. But I would argue that there's things that I will hold on to. Maybe you say, oh, I forgive, but don't forget. That's not real forgiveness. There's things that I do hold on to that fuel me, that help me move and make strategic decisions to ensure that I don't fall into that again. You know, I feel like this is the same situation.
Sure.
Not only that, it's like I think most people look at forgiveness in a manner of what people don't understand is I can forgive you. I don't have to come give you a hug. I could forgive you. I don't have to talk to
That's you personally.
No,
he probably felt he had
well,
to go
you know what I'm saying? But see, that's the thing. To me, to me, that's the conditioning. That's the submissive, beat down slave conditioning
We're gonna go
that made that happen.
We're gonna try to get this last phone call in because it might be the last one. 94.3.
Hi.
Hey.
Did I call the right number?
Yes, you did. Unless are you calling to join the discussion about the Amber Geiger case?
Yes, wait, I have you on. Yes.
What's your name?
Ebony.
Ebony, thank you for calling in. So what do you think?
Okay, so first of all, the pastor, I don't know his name.
Pastor Lewis.
Okay, so I don't think that forgiveness can be innate if it's contingent upon someone's skin color. And the way that he was saying it was like, okay, we should forgive, but then we have a hard time forgiving ourselves and people who look like us. Which, anything that's innate, it doesn't matter your skin color, your sex, anything like that, it's going to be automatic. So I think he was wrong in that part, and I do agree with the other guy. Now,
okay.
In terms of the situation, I think we're looking at it wrong. It's not about forgiveness in terms of what they're saying, oh, I forgive you. It's literally about the white is right syndrome. We presume that white people are right. So them apologizing and all those little intricate things that they did during this trial, it was more like, I feel sorry for you. I'm sorry that you're going through this.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing with Amber, from the judge to the bailiff. I think that was the bailiff.
Yeah. Oh, it was crazy.
In there, to the family. It was, I'm sorry that you're going through this. Whenever someone white, whether it's mainstream media or something local, whenever something white happens, we find out about somebody white doing something, it's always like, I wonder, we always give them that innocent, the right, the innocent until guilty or whatever, and all the facts have to be out. And I see this all the time on social media. And then as soon as something happens with a brown person, especially like police brutality, if you go into the comments, the first thing you hear is, oh, I got to see the rest of the video. I wonder what he was doing before then or whatever. So like brown people are always presumed guilty, and you have to pull up all of these receipts to prove that they were in fact innocent, where white people are always presumed innocent, and you have to prove in fact that they're guilty. So again, this goes back to what I was saying, Amber Geiger and all those other situations, even with Dylan Roof, where it's like, oh, I forgive you. Yeah, you can say it's the religion thing, but ultimately tying back into slavery and what we've been conditioned to do, we've been conditioned for centuries to believe that white people aren't wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Agree. Ebony, if you don't mind us asking, how old are you?
I'm 36.
How you gonna ask that?
Well, I mean because I just want to see what range, where what range of mindset, that's coming from. And thank you, and I apologize if that wasn't.
Thank you so much,
Oh
Ebony.
no, I don't care. I'm coming off a cold, and I know I sound like a child. So.
So am I.
Thank you very
I
much.
am too. Hey, thank you so much, Ebony. You gave some great insight.
No problem.
All right.
I totally agree with Ebony, but I think it's important to remember when you see situations like this to flip the identities of people, because had this been a, black person going into a house, it wouldn't even be on the news, right? It would be another break and entering and a murder, and that would be the way. It wouldn't be in the news. And I think we got to remember that stuff going into it. I don't think we should be forgiving people, right? And I think what this case tells you is that juries are important, and that the makeup of those people need to represent whoever's there on trial. And it's so politicized in this world, and coming from the White House on down, we need to be sure that we have checks and balances in our government. And I hate that I go on the political end of things, but it's really important to understand how these mechanisms work, because it's just on us at the end of the day. So we need to learn how to work the system in a way, and that doesn't start with just saying, oh, I'm sorry, oh, I'm this, I'm that. I mean, how many times are we going to say we're sorry? That's been the narrative since 1968.
Absolutely. Yeah, great point.
Just for a quick clarification, the jury was constituted very diversely. I mean, I think it was 4 women and the rest were men, and there were people of color. So in this sense, she did get a fair jury. But there was an officer in Minnesota who accidentally shot a white woman who wraps the back of the police car after reporting a sexual assault in the dark alleyway, and the police car was there. And when she comes up to the vehicle, he, in fear of his life, a person of color, by the way, shot and killed her. And in expeditious fashion, he was brought to justice, and now he's serving time. But this is a bigger point related to Ebony's point.
I want to have your point, and then we got to wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They besmirched his character from the outset. They said that the door was ajar, that they found 10.4 ounces of marijuana, and there was a metal grinding situation there for marijuana, suggesting that he was somehow a drug dealer, right? And that's how she was able, even though it was an accident or error mistake, she was able to access the apartment. Secondly, the prosecutor or the state's attorney, despite the gag order, went out and did a live interview that was favorable to the police officer. So in fact, what the attorney did with this gag order was to allow for her defense team to call for a mistrial. And then third, the final thing is to stand your ground. So there was Hail Marys being thrown across the field in her favor.
So I want to thank everybody for coming through. We never have enough time. Make sure you stay tuned for Electric Drum 94.3 WYBC.
Peace.